Hello, all. Welcome to Chronically Happy in Bed, Getting to Know Me. Starting my morning quite messy. I have been in a lot of pain the last 2 days. Um, Things finally shifted this morning when I woke up, when I did a little bit of moving in bed. I slept almost all day yesterday. Slept almost all through the night. I woke up at 5 o'clock, 5 something this morning, and it's almost 7 now, so I've been awake for about 2 hours. My stomach's like growling at me. And usually that means that I've ate too close to bed and things still haven't finally like kept digesting. Um, but I feel like the only way my body can digest food is if I'm laying still and laying around. um, until I get walking around stores, and then I walk around a bit, and then I'm like, oh, I finally got to go number. And it's always in the grocery stores or always in stores when I'm out and about, and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go to the restroom. I think I spend more time going to the restroom in stores or wherever I'm out and about than I do anywhere here at home. Um, my pain has moved spots, and I can't quite tell what my body is trying to do because as I'm still sitting in bed, things are still shifting. I'm wanting to change where things are, so I need to get into water. So you guys gotta come with me here. I don't know if I've shown this stuff in the background in a while. My L shelf. I have my collection of sunstones up here in this bottle. Some of them. I have other little stones and things in the display in my little bottles here. Because believe it or not, I hit my wall quite a bit and things fall off the shelf quite a bit onto my head and my bed. Um, I got my pretty cozy blanket throw that my best wifey friend, I don't swing that way, but I call her my wifey because she's like my bestest girlfriend that I have. And even then, we're not even like super close. We can't talk like about everything. I'm working on communicating better with her, and she's working on trying to communicate better with friends and such. Um, but I love my wifey, and I love her husband. I love their kid. Um, I don't know if he officially has a godmother or anything, but uh, you know, I was entitled godmother to some kids at one point, but I got that title taken away twice by two people. My supposed best friend from high school that I no longer associate with. I was there for so much of her, even though I was like in the Navy from afar, and she was going through her experiences here at home where we grew up, and I was experiencing places all over the world and enjoying my life and working my butt off in the Navy, doing my electronic intelligence, being on my ship for years, um, being stationed in Denver, being stationed in Hawaii, um, and then also being stationed in Virginia on the East Coast at the largest naval station that we have in the United States in Norfolk, Virginia. The locals, Norfolk, Virginia. These pronunciations in these different states. We were just having a debate in my Ray family Facebook chat about the difference between which states say pop, soda, Coke, whatever. That's always been one of my favorite debates since I've been in the Navy, when knowing people from all throughout the United States and how certain terms and slangs are different for different areas. Um, I think it's pretty funny. It just depends on where you are in the United States on what terminology you use for fizzy dark colored beverages. I don't have any, like, I grew up with the word pop. And so, every once in a while, I have my sarcastic family members, aunts and uncles. Sure, I'll give you a pop, pop on the mouth. And it's like, nah, no, they never pop me on the mouth either. But like, go to pretend to, and it's like, hey, no, that's not what I meant. So, I finally also finished separating all my beads yesterday. Um, this pain is just unrelenting right now. Like my body right now is like feeling pains and like sensations throughout different parts of my body because things have been shifting, and my body's in a state of influx always, depending on which position I'm sitting in or standing in or whatever I'm doing for any amount of time. I still feel the pain a little bit on my left side where it was making it hard to breathe, but when I was in bed this morning, I felt my shoulders and ligaments and stuff in both arms kind of shift and pop. I felt a pop somewhere in my middle back. So I either completely subluxed, that was waiting to sublux for 2 days, or it finally just let loose and the other parts of my body that were holding it in place finally decided to relax enough and let go. And that's what the anxiety pills do for me, is they help relax the muscles, they get the central nervous system to calm down, and it helps my mast cell sensitivity. So mast cell activation syndrome has to do with allergies and sensitivities to food and your environment and everything around you. So with my mast cell activation syndrome, it's almost interchangeable, but there's a slight difference in terminology between mast cell activation syndrome and mast cell activation disease. And then there's still a difference between those two versus mastocytosis. Mastocytosis is easier to quantify by certain tests. Mast cell activation syndrome is very hard to pin down, and a lot of the test results are not accurate whatsoever. So testing for mast cell activation syndrome or diseases is very, very difficult. And the only way is by clinical diagnosis, basically. And when they do clinical diagnoses for mast cell activation, it has to do with the histamine cells that are tied into mast cells and macrophages and a whole bunch of inner cell workings that I can't really get into without like having diagrams. Like maybe at one point I'll have like diagrams in the background so I can kind of point out, and like I'm not a very good verbal learner, so me telling you these things, it makes it hard to really like describe it in detail, because with the way I learn, I need to be able to see the verbiage and look at it and read it, and like I'm good at mirroring because of my autism ADHD. I am so good at mirroring, and I'm very good at copying what other people do, facial expressions, reactions. If I've been through a similar conversation with somebody and I was corrected in the original conversation to somebody else's beliefs, so then I take on that other person's beliefs, so then I talk about the same topic with somebody else, and then their opinion is completely different from what my opinion was, and then the other person's opinion that I'd end up taking on myself too. So then I'm all kinds of confused, and I'm like, I don't know what to believe. So there was my own belief system. There was another person that I thought, might have it right, since I was supposedly wrong in their eyes. So I kind of regurgitate what that person told me, and then I tell that other person, and then they're like completely offended, and then they're just like, no, that you're wrong. And I'm like, I don't get it. So things are different for everybody. People use and are attached to certain terminology compared to others. And I've learned that throughout life. What one person says for one word is not universal. Like one term for one word is not universal. It all depends on context. And a lot of the time, context is lost all the time. People do not take things in context at all. I don't know what's happening to our world with not being able to decipher. It's just social media has made it so hard because there's so many definitions, so many things in society are changing, societal norms are changing. Certain terminology is not correct anymore compared to what I grew up with. Um, it's hard to change in the ever changing world, especially as you age, because you learn what you learn when you're younger, and a lot of the time, adults don't continue to learn throughout their lives. They stop learning at the grade of 12 when they graduate, if they graduate. My mom didn't graduate high school. She went back and got her GED, but so with my mom's family, they grew up very poor. They they were very poor. My mom's side. My mom's mom and dad had 8 children. My grandmother had 3 children with her first husband. She ended up leaving her first husband, and then she had the rest of her 5 kids with another man, my grandfather. Um, so I have 7 aunts and uncles plus my mom, which made number 8. But my mom's also an identical twin. And so um, they share the same DNA, but it's interesting to have watched them age throughout my entire life. My mom's and her identical twin. The differences between them, the similarities between them. And what's so interesting is my mom's twin had a boy first, and then she had a girl. My mom also had a boy first, and then a girl. And then my brother, who had children, he had a son first, and then a daughter. I find that so intriguing. Whatever it is with the genetics, my mom actually had lots of miscarriages in between me and my brother. Um, Not a lot. I think she had like 2 or 3. I think she had one before my brother, and then 1 or 2 before me. And they only wanted 2 children, and um, so it's very interesting. So looking at all my aunts and uncles on my mom's side, my my mom's oldest brother is still alive. Um, he actually ended up having a brain injury when he was working on the job. He fell off some really bad height and he got traumatic brain injury, TBI. And he just hasn't been kind of all there ever since. I mean, he's there, and he has also children and has been married as well. His wife died a few years ago, and so his son and daughter-in-law have taken him in. His daughter is kind of estranged from the family. I don't know all the specifics on why she's so estranged from all of us. She has attempted to reach out here and there, but there's some skeletons in the closet with that part of the family. And we just don't, like, the rumors have flown, but there was some skeletons in the closet in that part of the family in the very beginning a long time ago. And I've only heard things, but I've heard little things throughout my life, and as an adult I've been told things as well, but I kind of just take them with a grain of salt. They're family. I'm careful around them, I guess I could say. I'm careful around certain family members. I love I don't think anything was like evil intent. It's just with my uncle's TBI, I think he just, there's some parts of the brain that just didn't function quite right. And he's done some kind of queer, weird things in his past. We'll just leave it at that. And then then the next sibling woman, so the oldest was a boy, then it was two girls after that from the first marriage that my grandmother had. And my Aunt Linda had just passed. She passed away a couple years ago. Um, and then at first her daughter died. So my cousin Missy died. Um, and then my Aunt Linda, her mom, I swear she was only holding on for her daughter to try and give her daughter strength before she passed. I'm glad I got to say goodbye to both of them. I went and visited them. Grief is hard, guys. Sorry. I didn't expect to have a little bit of grief this morning, but they've only been gone for a couple of years now. And I wasn't super close with them or anything. I love family because I grew up in such a large family. I mean, my family birthdays, like growing up, I had so many aunts and uncles show up to my birthday parties all the time. Whether they had children or not, they would show up and support. Either for my birthday, but I also shared my birthday with my grandmother, my mom's mom. I've always felt like she's my guardian angel too. That's looking after me because we share that. We share the same middle name, the same birthday. Wouldn't it be ironic if I had the same death day though? Like later on in life when I'm over 100. But yeah, there's been a lot of metabolic problems on my mom's side of the family. A lot of my grandmother's sisters and families died from complications from diabetes. But I just don't know if they were really complications from diabetes. I mean, back in the day, it was medical advancements weren't that up there. So, but yeah, my mom grew up kind of poor because there were so many children of various ages, and so the three older ones, like my uncle Mickey, the first one I talked about, that had the TBI, he actually ended up joining the National Guards. How he was able to join the National Guards and have a little bit of injury, I don't know, but he's still functional enough, and he was able to go to the Guards. And gosh, seeing my uncle in uniform, he's a good-looking man when he was younger. Not that he's like ugly as he's older, like he's still okay looking for his age, for being an old guy. But my uncle was a good-looking man. He had some good genetics on my side of the family. I don't know if he got it from his dad or more so from my mom's side. I don't know, but my uncle, pretty cool. And then his son kind of followed in his footsteps, and then he ended up having triplets with his wife. So I'm still talking about my first uncle, his family. I kind of bounce back and forth. He had a son and then a daughter, and she married some Air Force guy, and then her kids joined the Army, National Guard, or something or other. I don't know. Military is in her family, though. That's for sure. Her dad joined. She married a military member, and then her sons went into the military. And I don't know or spend much time or have seen them, that part of the family. They've kind of isolated themselves from the family, but they are also kind of heavy drinkers. And I would have to say that there's a lot of alcoholism in both sides of my mom's and dad's side of the family. Unfortunately. And so that has ruined some relationships between some family members, especially after my grandmother died. She was the glue that kept the family together every Christmas, like holidays. That's all a mother wants. From what I've learned, I've never been a mother, but from what I've seen and experienced and witnessed my entire life is um, being a mom, being a mother. I know I would have made a great one if I had had the chance in my 30s. But in my 30s, I was spending time trying to figure out why I'm disabled, and I was going after a career even though I was disabled. I was trying to be a forester, and I went to school for over 6 years just getting that degree because I wanted to be successful. Even though I knew I was disabled, I was trying so hard to be a functional adult. In my 30s, I became disabled at the age of 28, and I spent my last 2 years in my 20s trying to figure out how to fix me with the military. They tried everything, guys. They tried everything that they knew that they could to try and fix me to keep me in the service without having a medical board me, and no matter what was happening, I still was not getting better. Like, there was some underlying problem, and I finally was just like to the point I give up. I give up trying because every treatment that I know isn't helping me. I don't know what's wrong with me. Come to find out I had tethered cord, but that's a different story altogether. Going back to my family roots here. Um, so military was in the family a little bit on my mom's side, but it hasn't been much talked about. Um, so then there was my uncle Mickey, and then my aunt Linda, and she actually had. Did she have the boy first? Did she have Missy or Troy first? I can't quite recall, but I know Missy died, and then my aunt Linda died. And then the son is still alive, but he is a major alcoholic, and he can't hold down a job to save his life. And my uncle that was married in, um, he's family to us. He's still family, even though different dad, same mom. So it's my mom's stepsister's husband, but he's treated like family. We love him. He's been part of our lives like entire, forever. And the fact that he's not able to get the support and the love that he needs and take care of, he can't handle staying at his son's house during recuperation. He was living in a trailer for some time, but he ended up getting sepsis, bad bacterial or MRSA, something. He got really bad blood poisoning, blood sickness. He, all of a sudden, his knee replacement from like 20 years ago got infected, and all of a sudden he was like life or death. He was in the hospital for months. I went to visit him once in the hospital with my mom. It took me some courage to work myself up to it, and plus with my timing and schedule and stuff. But I love my Uncle Dallas, and it's sad that his wife and daughter are gone. They were what was keeping him together, and the son has been kind of an outcast because he's an alcoholic and he cares nothing about anybody but himself. He can't keep down a job because he just cannot get through his alcoholism. He has also tried to off himself, and I don't know what I should say in words other than that, but he has attempted, and he didn't succeed, thankfully. But I don't know why I understand going through tough parts in life. I understand chronic illness. I understand physical and mental pain. I don't know what demons he's trying to drink away. I don't understand why he can't get past whatever childhood trauma he may have experienced or experienced as an adult. I don't understand the alcoholism. Then it goes, so I talked about my Uncle Mickey, my Aunt Linda, and their kids. And then it goes to my Aunt Kathy. She is a survivor of cancer of multiple types. She is also a huge alcoholic and a liar and a cheat. And a lot of the family don't trust her, and a lot of people just won't. She needs to help herself, and she doesn't want to help herself. She broke the record and had two boys, vice a girl and a boy. So out of everybody in my mom's side of the family has had a girl and a boy kid, a girl and a boy kid, and then she broke it and had two boys. And those boys, one of them is very successful, married, has three children. His children are my cousin's kids are one boy and two girls. They had three children, so he broke out of the normal two. There was a lot of scandal with them back in the day, and a lot of it having to do with money and using my grandmother and not paying her back, and just a lot of other family drama. All because she was a gambler. She gambles all her money away, including rent. She's got an addiction problem with gambling and drinking. And then she's had cancer, and she's fought cancer twice, 3 times. She's lost one complete, and she hasn't wanted to have surgery to have any kind of replacement. That's up to her, it's whatever she wants. She don't care at this point in her age. She's just like, eh. And so besides her older son, he's married and has 3 kids, and then her younger son, a complete F up. Alcoholic, homeless, travel, using everybody that he can for whatever he can get. Can't trust him as far as he can throw him. I love all my family, but you gotta love to let them go. They gotta figure shit out on their own, their stuff out on their own, and they need to just figure it out. And I don't think he ever will. And he had a kid, and he's not very involved in that kid's life. He's not a good, I hate to say it, he's just not a good parent. The woman that he had a kid with, she has her own sets of issues, but I'm still friends with her on Facebook, and I try to support her as best that I can because she's the mother of my cousin's kid. I feel like she's doing better to try and help herself and get ahead. She's trying to be the good single mom that she can be, and she came from kind of a messed up family as well. I don't know how much more messed up than mine. Mine seems kind of calm compared to some. Alright, then who came next in the line after that? So, the 3 step siblings are all from a different dad, and they all have a slight different genetics. Just my grandmother's the only thing in common with us and them. And, oh, I didn't even take it back. So, Missy, the one that died, she never had any children. She never got married. She was with this piece of crap boyfriend forever, and he sure hasn't stuck around after the death, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I'm backtracking here. And then Troy, with the mom that died and the sister that died, he has 2 daughters, maybe 3, I'm not sure. At least 2 I know of, Maddie and Dakota, and they're drama cases too. I don't know much about Dakota. She has a different mom than the other one. Maddie, a lot of my mom's generation don't like Maddie at all. They think that she is just, she hasn't had a lot of guidance. I can't blame her. She has not had the good guidance and support of either her mom or dad. Her dad is an alcoholic, who's my cousin Troy. He does not step up. He's not doing anything to help his dad. He's just focused on him getting drunk and, you know, making rules and stipulations on their dad. That's not fair to him because of him trying to recuperate from almost dying. And then he had to have kidney dialysis for a while because his kidney was failing. I mean, his kids are not doing him right. So the soonest chance he gets, he's trying to get out of their household. These are the skeletons in my family's closet. Now, this is the least of everything. So let's see, who came next? I have a hard time with keeping track of who was in what order, who was born when, because I have so many aunts and uncles, so many. Mickey, Linda, Kathy. The alcoholism is so strong on that side. And then my grandmother married another alcoholic, but he was a hard worker. There was a difference between, I guess, her first husband and second husband. He would be the most sweetest man in the world, but when he drank, he was a complete opposite. And I know there was a lot of abuse. I don't even know the extent of it, but there was a lot of abuse within his alcoholic rages. Not to the point of like seriously like breaking bones or anything on anybody, you know. Abuse is abuse, though, mental or physical, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of generational trauma with my mom's side of the family, and not a single one of them want to admit it. But all of their children, all of my cousins, we all recognize it. And there's nothing we can do to convince our parents to get better help, to help themselves with their mental health. So I think the next kid that my grandma's had was Norman. Norman was named after his dad, biological dad. Norman was my grandfather's name. My grandmother's name was Phyllis, so Phyllis and Norman. So Norman was their firstborn son, so they were named after his dad. Well, Dwayne. Really, Dwayne Norman was his name. And so they named their first son Norman. And he has had a tumultuous life. Very tumultuous life. Him and my Uncle Alan, which I'll get to eventually. Alan is the youngest out of all of them. Norman and Alan used to work for the same guy for like 20 years, doing excavating and construction and building houses and that kind of stuff. But Norman was married to this woman, Anita, for like, oh my gosh, the majority of my entire childhood until I was a teenager, roughly. And then Uncle Norman came to live at our house during the divorce. And then the child custody battles, and then this and that. They were drug addicts. They did all kinds of different drugs. Norman was trying to get clean so he could get custody of the kids because Anita was doing the worst things ever to and with her children. She shot her own daughter up with heroin at one point in her teenage years because this tumultuous marriage that my Uncle Norman had with Anita, it was all surrounded around drugs. She came from money, And so once all her money dried up because of all the drug use her and my uncle did, they had to find other ways. And so he had to go to work, and he was working and having to like get advances so he could support his habits. And my poor cousins, Sarah and Andrew, Andrew ended up being a very messy kid. I babysat the kid when he was younger, and he was a handful. Like, I wasn't right with the way I treated him either because I didn't know how to handle such a troublesome kid. Because I've done babysitting. I've kid sit before my entire life as a teenager. It was the only way I could make any bit of money. So I had a lot of cousins that my aunts and uncles would pay me to watch because I was you know, a more responsible teenager-ish, and I always wanted money. So I couldn't control that kid though. I tried my best I could. That kid was like a lost cause. Eventually, we tried to get him to live with our grandmother because she's raised 8 kids. She thought she could handle him. Boy, could she not handle that kid. He was a handful. He had so many freaking problems because his mom was high on drugs while she was pregnant with him. 100%. I don't know what drugs. I don't know what their drug of choice was, but yeah, it wasn't a good outcome. It wasn't a good outcome, like a outcome at all. But Sarah, it was in the 90s during when her dad was living with us and she was living with her mom. And that's when she started getting into drugs with her mom. Her mom was sharing drugs with her daughter. I don't know where Andrew was in all of this. He ended up just being in foster care. He went into foster care because there were, out of all of our aunts and uncles, none of us could help control that kid. That kid was just so ADHD, ADD, and I don't know what other kind of mental health issues he has or has been diagnosed with. But for the longest time, and I think a lot of it was him lying too, but like when he finally did come back to the family as like a 20-year-old, supposedly what the foster care system told him, or whoever told him, somebody told him that all his family was dead. They were all dead to him. And I don't know if that was in his own brain or if somebody actually did tell him that and he believed it. Like he didn't know he had all this family. Because he was extremely traumatized when he was a kid, bouncing around from foster care to foster care. Nobody in the family could handle him or take care of him because my family had nothing ever wrong. Nothing was ever wrong with us. Them, I should say. I gotta pause y'all for a second. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. Go back into my room. I gotta be quiet because it's still early in the morning. I'm not trying to wake up my parents. Alright, so nobody could take care of Andrew. I was in the Navy at the time, too, when all this shenanigans was going on. I had already joined the Navy by this point. When I found out he was all in foster care and nobody could take care of this kid, I felt so bad because he's family, you know. How could he be better off in foster care than he can with family members? But our family members' lives cannot be destroyed by, we don't have time with working class families and all of my family. Like, considering where my parents came from, or my mom came from, sometimes my mom didn't even have shoes growing up. There's eight of them kids. They didn't have their own bedroom. They all had to share a room. They they were essentially almost like migrants. They worked in agriculture. They worked in a very small town. They grew up very small rural community, um, and everybody was basically slave labor for for the adults. Like that's how my mom was raised, was to basically be slave labor because um, they couldn't take care of things on their own. My grandfather was a huge landscaper and he loved landscaping and he was always in the yard. But my grandparents had the most beautiful yards I've ever seen. And it takes a lot of work. A lot of work. Especially as you get older. It's so much harder to do. So I get it. Like, gosh, my earliest memories of my grandfather of just him yelling at me and my cousin to get out of the fish pond. Because all we used to do is we were trying to go fishing. Not really. We were like pretending fishing. We'd be leaning over and he'd be yelling all the way out in the yard from the house, "You kids get out of my fish pond!" Like, I don't have that many fond memories of my grandfather except for him just yelling at us because we were messing up his yard because we're kids and we're messy. Um, that could be where my mom gets some of this stuff from. I gotta plug in my phone. It's starting to die again. Alright. Some more getting to know me and my family. So with Norman and his wife just being complete drug addicts, meth, heroin, speed, whatever they can get their hands on, they did. Um, well, eventually, like I said, as a teenager, they went through the divorce. Andrew ended up in the foster system. Sarah ended up just being a drug addict with her mom for a short while until, she got into the gangs. Sarah got it into being a gang member. She got beat into a gang. And she was living that gang life for a while, doing drugs with her mom and going wild. But she ended up getting saved by a Mexican dude. This Mexican dude wanted to get her out of the gang lifestyle, and he did. He saved her life. We don't know what to call him because he has changed his name so many times because he was illegal. And I don't know if he still is legal or not. I haven't asked in a while. I haven't talked to her in a while. She lives in Washington, and so she's one of the only cousins that don't live near me that I can't, just on a whim go see. But I can if I really wanted to because it's not that far away. It's like 2 hour drive or something, and I can get to her house. But we're friends on Facebook, and I try to keep in touch with all my cousins. I love my cousins all to death. We have so many similarities with all our neurodivergence and crazy health issues that I don't even know. I only know my health issues because I do replicate a lot of my dad. And what's crazy is I know even less about my dad's medical history than I do my mom's side. I know way more about my mom's medical history side than my dad's. Because for whatever reason throughout the years, my mom has just gotten to the point where she just does not like any of my dad's family. Like, none of them. She finds all of them annoying. She thinks they're too loud. She doesn't approve of a lot of things. My mom's always been just like this little bit of a judgy person. I've been trying my entire life to get her to cut it out. I've been trying to do everything it takes to do everything that she doesn't like, to be like, I'm doing what you don't like. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to love me or disown me for it? I've been testing my mom's boundaries for my entire life. I want her to be a better person, man. I just want her to be happier. It's hard. It's so hard when she has these preconceived notions and her inner core belief system, and there's nothing you can do to change somebody's inner core belief system. You just can't. But you can make small differences. You can. I've seen it. My mom has had to accept so many of my friends that are just so out there. I've tried so much of my life embarrassing her, trying to dress just in ways that she just would not approve of. I have tried to show my mom so much about, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Do not judge people by what they look like. You don't know. But nowadays it just pisses her off more because she's always got to be right. She's always got to be right. And then that drives me to be like, no, I've got to be right. So then I'm taking right after my mom in that same aspect. So I'm like, dang it, I'm going to get you to believe this, or whether you believe it or not, I'm going to try my damnedest to get you to get on my level here. I'm trying. I can only do so much for somebody, though. I gave up a long time ago, though. Because I have to really pick my battles with her these days. I haven't gotten to my mom yet. I need to get through the whole family first before I get to her. Okay, so there was my Uncle Norman, and he lived with us in high school. So it was almost a chaotic time in my high school life, too, honestly. So we lived in a 3-bedroom house. And when I was in high school, at like the age of 16, 17, we had many people live in and out of our house at times. And so we had my Uncle Norman living with us for a time while he was going through the divorce and figuring out where he was going to go. And gosh, that was annoying having him live with us. Oh my gosh, every morning he makes this gosh awful sound. And I get it. And I get it because of my sinuses and my inflammation and all my autoimmune stuff and stuff. Like, I understand that he has that because I have a lot of the same issues, but the way he goes about it is so disgusting. It was so loud and so interruptive. It's like he doesn't care about any surroundings around him whatsoever. He just does what he does. Doesn't matter. But in the mornings, he would be like, like biggest sounding, nastiest loogies in his mouth, man. It was so gross. Like, if you have sound, I forget the name of the term now. It's like, it's not sound morphia. It's something to do with something. It makes like sensitivity to sound. Certain sounds, like some people can't handle like hearing somebody chew gum or lip smacking or just the little things. It's almost like nails on a scratchboard for people with like certain heightened sound sensitivities. A lot of people on the spectrum are very highly overstimulated by lots of sounds all at once, especially. I can only handle so much sound in the background at the same time as somebody's talking because I can't hear what they're saying because I'm like listening to them, but then I also hear the fan, and then the fan distracts me from what they're saying. And so it's hard with ADHD and having these sound sensitivity type things that really interfere with communication with people. And I also really hate repeating myself and having to say the same thing 2 times. But if I have to say it more than twice, oh man, I'm fuming. I'm just like, would you listen to what the F is coming out of my mouth right now? Just listen. Listen. I don't know how many times in my life that I've always wanted to be like, you just said this. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. I wish I had a sound recorder for what I just had heard you say, because you're completely oblivious to what you just said come out of your mouth. Word for word. My interpretation of words is slightly different too. Like, but it's because of context and body language, and I can totally read somebody when they're lying, and no matter how adamant they are at that lie, I can tell when something is off. I have this ability to understand, but also, did I really just hear you right? Like, rewind. What did you just say? And if it's not word for word, I'm going to call you out on it. But yet I can't repeat it word for word back because of my verbal processing. I can't verbal process things. All right, so anyway, off topic a little bit about that. So then my cousin Sarah turned out all right. My cousin Andrew has totally disowned the family, and nobody knows where he's at. And nobody cares. You know, he thinks nobody cares about him. It's all been his own delusion in his head. He has some mental health issues because of his mom using drugs while he was. He's got some developmental issues for sure, but nobody has given him the special attention that he's needed to get the help that he needed, because he's been very misunderstood his entire life. And so, since he's been misunderstood by his whole entire family, because he also hasn't given us the chance to get to know who he is, the real him, because he thinks we're judging him for what his past was. And some of that does come into a play, but don't lie about things, bro. Don't lie. Just be yourself, and your family will accept you for who you are. Some of them, anyways. Some of my family is just so judgmental, they just can't handle a person no matter what. And they won't talk to them. There's so many pieces of my family that just won't talk to each other. And it's sad because of what I knew to grow up. Everybody would show up. Everybody would be at the gatherings. Everybody would be at the kids' birthday parties. And now, we don't get that. My generation doesn't. Whose fault is that? I don't think it's our parents' fault, but it's our own, because we are not accepting of each other, and there's grudges within family, and some people get butthurt because they don't get invited, but it's not even really that. It's just the lack of planning in my mom's side of the family when it comes to get-togethers or barbecues, or trying to get everybody together into one place at one time. So hard with everybody's schedules, and all my cousins' schedules, like, working now. A lot of the older adults are all retired now, so all they have is time, and all they want is to be visited by family and loved ones. And nobody checks up on them. Nobody says hi to the older adults. And they're sad and they're lonely. And so, like, my uncle is now with his current wife, who's a huge alcoholic. He's drinking his life away. He's been in and out of the ER over the last couple of years for a lot of the same issues, for having a lot of the same vitamin and supplement imbalances, which can cause into major other diseases. He has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He has been diagnosed with BPD. There's always been anxiety, an anxiety component growing up too. Like, my Aunt Kathy used to have major anxiety attacks at times, and I remember during hunting season, like, a lot of our family members would get together and go hunting. Like, all my aunts and uncles, like my mom's twin and her husband, their kids, me and my brother, my mom and dad, my Aunt Kathy, her husband and two boys, they would go. all of us, we used to all go hunting together. We used to all go camping. We would rent like 5 sites together. We would do all of this. And we would do these things every summer. The kids would take our bikes. We would go on bike rides. We would go camping up at like Fort Stevens State Park in northern Oregon coast, where they have some cool old forts. Like, this is the childhood I had with a lot of my aunts and uncles and all my cousins with. And we used to all camp together, have 5 or 6 sites next to each other. We would play Yahtzee, we'd play Rummy, we'd play card games. We'd go to the playground and like friends with other friends, other kids camping. Um, you know, going from that kind of childhood to now being an adult, I don't have my own kids, but trying to get all of my cousins like on one page, trying to just get one day planned, people don't show up. Like, I have tried my hardest to show up for my I'll get there. Gosh, it's almost over an hour so far with my talk. This is getting to know one side of my family, and it's taking almost an hour. I haven't even gotten through all of my aunts and uncles. So, okay, so I talked about Norman, Sarah, and Andrew. And who was next after that? Was it my mom and my aunt? I think it was the twins, because, yeah, younger Virginia. Okay, hold on. I gotta count. I've already talked about Mickey, Linda, Kathy, Norman. So I got my mom and Darlene, and then Gina and Alan. Okay. So yes. So then my parents came next, or my mom and her identical twin came next after Norman. So Norman was the first one with the new husband, and then my mom and Darlene were the first set of girls that came out of the same dad. Alright, so my mom and her twin, they couldn't be any more different in personality. My Aunt Darlene used to cuss all the time growing up. She worked for DMV even for a long time. The majority of her career she worked at DMV. My mom worked as a seamstress with her mom, my Aunt Kathy, and Linda for a while. They all worked for the same guy making draperies for Hillcrest Mobile Homes. And so they always used the same types of materials, and so they had a pamphlet that, the buyers of their mobile home, they get to choose from all these different styles of curtains and stuff. And so my parents would fulfill all those orders, and they were always constantly building. I mean, this man was in business with this company for really like 15 years or more, 15, 20 years. And one by one, each one of the family members kept dropping out, except for my mom. My mom ended up working there all by herself, fulfilling all the orders, doing an excellent job for doing everything that she did. She's been a seamstress for years. But at one point, the mobile home company shut down, and so then they were out of business. And then my mom basically had to be a stay-at-home mom, but she was still working there while I was in high school. So she worked there until at least I got out of the Navy, or got into the Navy. After I got out of the Navy, while I was in the Navy, she ended up not having a job for a while. She tried this catering job for a while. She got fired due to age discrimination, pretty much, and they covered it up, and everybody was in on it, and they just, somebody just didn't like her. Somebody that worked there didn't like her, and so they made it so she basically got fired. They found one reason to fire her and fired her. I told her she should have fought it. She should have fought it, and I think she could have won, but it would have just taken way too much time and money, and that catering business did go out of business. But that also led her into being a substitute lunch lady for the school district. So with her a little bit of experience in the food business with the catering, she was able to go to the school district and work there as a substitute and work, whatever else she felt like it. But she learned the politics behind that, and the more you turn down jobs, the less jobs you're going to get offered. So she had to accept almost every single job, even if she didn't want to. And there were some schools that she was just like, these people are freaking idiots. She did not like some of her coworkers at all. My mom just wanted to go in and get the job done and not BS or talk or anything. My mom's kind of antisocial, really, she is. She just wants to go in there and get the job done. She didn't want to BS. She didn't want to socialize. She didn't want them to know anything about her. She didn't want to know anything about them. And she would have to listen to all these people talk and gossip all day long, and she just would be so annoyed by it all day. So sometimes she would refuse to work those locations because she's like, nah, I don't want to work there with those people. I don't like them. Like I said, my mom's always been kind of a judgy person. She likes what she likes, and she does not like what she does not like. So that is one thing I do have to say is my mom sticks to her guns. She knows what she wants, and she knows what she don't want. And she's very vocal about letting people know. That's probably where I got that from, too. Anyway, and then my aunt, her identical twin, has always been more of the troublemaker. She was always doing things to get both her and my mom in trouble, and my mom has had a lot of resentment to it. My mom does. My mom resents her sister for getting her in trouble because they would always, her parents would, and family would throw it in her face that she's supposed to be the good example out of the two, that she's supposed to control her sister. And she can't control her sister. She tried to talk reason into her, and no matter what, my aunt would not listen. She was so strong-headed too. Both of them were. So they always, they were always together, but they always got stuck. My mom always had to be stuck pulling her sister out of the stupidest of situations. My mom's had a good head on her shoulders, really. I mean, kind of. So my mom's always known how to stay out of trouble, while my aunt was always in trouble and just didn't have the common sense to stay out of certain types of trouble. Which is funny. So I think that's why I make the perfect combo, because I've learned that I'm a lot like my aunt. I'm so much more closer to what my mom's aunt is than I am to my mom. And what's even funnier is my cousin, my mom's identical twin's daughter, my cousin Des, she is so much more like my mom than I am. So I'm more like her mom, and she's more like my mom. And then there is so my mom's identical twin also had a boy first and then a girl, and then my mom had my boy and then my brother and then me. And Danny is so much like my brother, but also more rebellious. Like, he's like his mom too. He's rebellious. Danny turned out to be more like his mom, like more like edgier. And Desiree's more like my mom, and sensible and shit. I don't know, more responsible, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, but she's definitely more like my mom. And then my brother is more like my mom. So me and Danny are closer together in like attitude and mentality. And Desiree and Josh, my brother, are kind of like similar too. I want nothing to do with anybody in the family. Well, Danny doesn't have a problem with people in the family. He just doesn't like he's more of a homebody. He likes to just stay home. He likes to just enjoy his space and being home. He likes to be home and drink his beer, and he's perfectly content doing whatever the F he wants to do. Just like me. I'm perfectly content doing whatever. Well, yeah. I have a little bit more travel ambition than all of them, but they're getting the travel bug now, finally, all of them. So then we go to my, let's see, Gina. Gina is my mom's younger sister. I guess she was quite the troublemaker, too, underneath my mom and Darlene. Well, Darlene was more of the troublemaker, and then Gina was even more so. And then Alan after that. So Gina ended up having a girl first, and then a boy. And the boy had a lot of, he had some messed up something with his eyes, and he had to have some kind of eye surgery or something when he was really young. I can't remember what it was. But he had a little bit of a malformality of some sort. And it was messing with his vision. Like he couldn't like walk or see or stuff or whatever. And then April, who's actually my age. The closest cousin in age that I have is April, and it's Gina, my mom's younger sister, that had her in February 1980, and I was born May 1980. So me and April were always kind of, when we got together, we were always in cahoots. We actually got in a lot of trouble together, me and April. April and I did a lot of sneaking out of the house together. April taught me a lot of things about how to sneak out and being sneaky and stuff. And I think it's because of her mom's DNA. April was doing the same kind of stuff that her mom kind of got in trouble for doing back in the day. April's biological dad has been out of the picture for a long time. Matthew's dad, I'm not sure about Matthew's dad. Is he the same dad? I don't know. That's something I'm gonna have to check on. But anyways, she ended up marrying, Gina ended up marrying Rod. Gosh, I'd like to say when I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. Well, April ended up going hog wild. Out of the cousins, she just was so rebellious, and she actually got sent to live with my grandmother for a little while too, because my Aunt Gina was just like, I am just fed up. I don't know what to do with her. And my mom kind of, some inside between me and my mom's gossip is like, yeah, April's just like her mom was when she was her age. Getting into trouble, being out with boys late at night. Like, April got me into some trouble. Because I snuck out with her and got in trouble with some boys and stuff. Yeah, so we weren't good influences on each other, so they tried to limit our time together until she ended up going to my high school. And then me and April had a falling out in high school. We liked the same guy. And she refused to talk to me for like 2 to 3 years. April went off the deep end. She started hanging out with some gangbangers and stuff too. And she also started just hanging out with a bad crowd. I was hanging out with a bad crowd too. However, I was smart about how I hung out with them. April went about it a completely wrong way. I'd like to say that I had the good sense of my mom, but also Darlene's like sneakiness too, like in me. I'm just like I said, I take a lot after my Aunt Darlene. I'm so much like her compared to my cousin Des. Des is so much more like my mom. I'm so much more like her mom. It's really funny to think about. Because we are genetically sisters. We just have different genetic dads. Um, and so it's been kind of hard with so I uh, I have to finish this story. It's over an hour long. There's still one more sibling to go over. So my uh, my mom's youngest brother, Alan. Oh my gosh, he's a handful. He also did not finish high school. He went in there, like, he got caught for smoking. He got caught for something. Got it sent into the principal's office, and the principal's office is all like, the principal's like, I'm either going to kick you out now or something or other. And he's like, and my uncle, like, spouted off some of the smartest things he could have said to be like, I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna make it in life. You see, you're wrong about me, basically. And our principal's like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And I tell you what, my Uncle Alan is my absolute favorite uncle in the world. I absolutely adore and I love my uncle. Even though he was a hard ass, he has the hardest time showing any kind of emotion. He has emotions. He's not very good at regulating it at all. That's why I think the ADHD is even stronger in him. But also, so my Uncle Alan married Kim a long time ago, my Aunt Kim. And they actually, my Uncle Alan lived with us for a little while too, a long time ago before high school years. Him and Gwen had a Christmas with us, I remember, because him and Kim weren't talking at the moment, or they just didn't have a place to live, a steady, good place to live. Alan is a guy with charisma. He can also be called a manipulator by some, because he does get what he wants. And it's nothing of malicious intent either. It's all really to really just benefit himself. He with the childhood and the way he grew up, he got blamed for so many things. Like, it's amazing to know that a lot of my aunts and uncles quit high school. They quit. They gave up to have different lives because they had to work. Because they came from nothing. They didn't have shoes. They didn't have any, they didn't have anything. They actually had a house fire and half their house burnt down. And spontaneous combustion in the closet, too many clothes. And it burnt the only ladder up to their second story. And there really wasn't a bedroom. They all had to share like one room and living room, for the longest time. I mean, the older kids had moved out long since, but and started their own families. But the younger ones, they all had to share. They had to share clothes. They had to share shoes. They didn't have everything. My grandfather worked hard, and he worked in the yard to make it beautiful all the time. And then my grandmother worked in the yard too. I mean, that's all she would do, like day in and day out, just pretty much beautify her yard. That's what made her happy. Kept her moving. It gave her a goal and purpose in life. And then she played bingo on her Social Security disability. She was a bingo-holic. She wasn't a drinkaholic. She didn't drink really. But she was a bingo-holic. Addiction to gambling. But she only played bingo. I mean, she would go play, because slots and stuff here and there when the Indian casinos popped up, which coincidentally is where she had her stroke that ended her life. She was at the casino. I'm still trying to process the grief of her because I wasn't home. I was in the Navy at the time. I just joined. I just left. I went in February 2001, before September 11th happened. I was just finishing up my specialty training school when 9/11 happened. I already had my orders, so I wasn't going to go help with the 9/11 thing, even though I really wanted to. I was just like, why can't we just be temporarily deployed there first and go help, and then, go to our respective duty stations? But that's not how it lined up for me. And to this day, I still haven't seen all the wreckage and the videos. Bits and pieces I've seen, but I purposely haven't watched it just because it was kind of traumatic listening to it over the radio. Because I was in school at the time with top secret clearance material, studying for my final exams before I were to graduate my school, before I went on to my duty station in Denver. I still haven't seen all the Twin Tower falls. And to know my Aunt Stacy was actually there within a day of that happening was kind of scary. And my Aunt Stacy's on my dad's side of the family. I haven't even talked about that side. It's taken over an hour just to give a little insight inside my mom's side of the family. Large family I came from, and growing up with people all around me at all times, like I felt comfortable, even though I can feel so alone in a crowded room. But when it's my family, and you know your family, and you know them almost inside and out, because y'all have a lot in common. The personality traits, characteristics, and generational trauma that we experience through our parents. Because that's passed on through our DNA. Generational trauma is passed through the DNA. For those in the back, DNA passes through traumatic experiences passed through the DNA, and the DNA remembers. So no matter how much you want to hide it and pretend it's not there, it is. And it's up to us to acknowledge it. Yeah, my parents got beat when things happened, like they'd be playing ball in the yard and they went through a couple windows. Things would get broken and they would get lined up, and if none of them confessed, all of them got punished. All of them. They got whooped. So they had fear-based trauma of doing the wrong thing. And that passed on to me. I always felt like I was doing the wrong thing because I ended up getting whooped too. My butt. I had my butt spanked many and many times growing up. All because I was misunderstood. And that has now completely created a complex in me that I have to be perfect and right at all times, because otherwise I got my butt beat because I did the wrong thing. And the physical trauma is not even as bad as the mental trauma behind all of that. Because now it's made me have a fear of speaking up and a fear of saying anything, because if I say the wrong thing, that's what happened to me when I was a kid. Because I didn't comprehend what I was doing. I was a kid. I didn't have things explained to me. And if I did have things explained to me, my verbal processing didn't help. I needed to have real explanations, and if I were to ask why, I got into even more trouble for asking why. Because I said so. But I needed to be able to rationalize why I was doing something. I needed to question why. But I was never allowed to. because my parents told me to do it. And that's the reason I had to do it. So, I don't believe fear-based training does any good. As much as people like to say, I used to get spanked and look, I'm fine. Really? Are you fine? I'm not fine from it. It taught me I'm not allowed to say certain things or I'm wrong, and the worst consequences could happen. I could get beat. And that's probably why I also haven't settled with any man, because I will not. My survival instincts kicked in and tell me red flag, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to be with this man who's going to treat me this way. So I have deep-rooted issues of feeling like if I'm wrong, can I even talk about it? If I am wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. And a lot of people won't tell somebody why something is wrong. Sometimes people don't know why it's wrong. And so I've gone throughout a life of not understanding, what have I done so wrong? And then the poor self-image, and then feeling like a failure when I don't do things right the first time, because if I didn't do things right the first time, I was made to repeat it all day long until I did get it right. And it had to be done my mom's way, or the highway. I couldn't do it any other way, even if it got the job done. So I had my imagination stifled. I had my ideas stifled. I had no understanding of why I'm doing certain things the way I'm doing. So what I learned from the educational public school system is you keep trying and learning. You learn from your mistakes. But when you fail, then you get that fear-based thing in the back of your head, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if I get this wrong? Oh my gosh, what if I'm going to get a C? And then it makes you strive for A's, and then it just perpetuates this whole cycle of, I can never be wrong. And so then everybody feels like they're right all the time, because they're right for themselves. But a lot of people try to push what they think is right on themselves onto others, and that's where it's not right. You don't know what's right for somebody because it could be wrong for somebody. Not everybody was raised the same, and not everybody can be perfect. There is no perfect. What's perfect for one person is not perfect for another. So that is my mom's side of the family in a nutshell. And my uncle Alan, I still haven't finished saying, he had 2 girls, and they've got some major medical issues, and I try my best to stay involved with them. I love them to death. Their dad is my favorite uncle, but my uncle has a problem saying I love you. He doesn't say it very often, and his girls would be dying for him to just hear some praise from him, hear some happiness from him. But he's so used to the way he was raised and the negative feedback that he received growing up. He didn't receive those words of I love you. He doesn't know how to love the way that, he only knows the way to love the way he was taught love, and that was through being pushed to do harder, do better. And that's how he was raised. That's how all of my aunts and uncles and my mom was raised. You better do it right the first time, or there's consequences. Do it right the first time, and you're good to go. And so then that makes me want to strive for perfection. There is no perfection. The only perfection in life is that you're perfectly imperfect. And it's okay to not be okay. I haven't done enough of these getting to know me videos, but this is, you know, knowing what I do about my family and what I've explained. There's so much generational trauma that's passed down without us even really realizing it or recognizing it. You've got to try to understand where the person's coming from. They're coming from love, but they don't understand love as the same way that everybody else experiences love. My mom had it rough. I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, she didn't have shoes some days. They had to share shoes. And then my dad's side of the family is a whole nother story for another day, probably. But the two different worlds that my parents came from, they have made their marriage work for 50 years. The good, the bad, the ugly. My dad came up in a completely different upbringing, completely different. And I take so much after my dad. And I believe I'm just a beautiful human being that needs to just inspire others. Because no matter the upbringing you have, you can change things. Break the cycle. Break the stigma of mental health issues. We've all got something going on. We all have something. And it's up to you to acknowledge it, accept it, grieve it, whatever you need to do, just to keep going. Never give up. If my mom or any of those family members had given up, they would be up on the streets right now. All of them have a home. All of them have a place to live. Whether they have good spouses or not, good children or not, that help or make things worse. Every family's got their skeletons, and I haven't even touched on the darker ones on mine. It is what it is. Life is what you want it to be, and life is how you make it. It's all about choices, and you choosing to make the choices for yourself and not let those above you or around you dictate your own life. You dictate your life. You get to dictate how you live your life. I love traditions. I'm a traditional kind of girl. I love knowing what's going to happen, but I also love surprises and I love spontaneity. And look at my beautiful, beautiful lilies. I just have to say. These are some of my newest lilies that I got. These are double lilies. They stem from an Asiatic version of lily, and these ones are very fragrant. I only got 3 flowers off this plant this year. These are 2 out of the 3. The other one has not bloomed yet. But a girl loves flowers. I always love flowers. It helps cheer me up, especially in my hardest times of being disabled. Lilies are my favorite, and they're the most dangerous to animals and pets. So please, if you own any lilies, keep your dogs and cats away from them because it will kill them. Lilies are dangerous to animals. But boy, do they look beautiful. I love my lilies over there. That's a vase I bought my mom. This is a hand-blown vase that I bought her for Christmas last year. Because I went to an art show that my friend was a part of. I'm not sure what name she goes. I had to look at her business card to be able to point it out, but she didn't make that. But She's a beautiful beautiful local artist and paints mostly. In fact, let me see. I have some of her work hanging up. Let me unplug and show y'all. I like to support my friends in what they do, and I will purchase things. So her son actually made this. This is called Thought Bubble, and it has just a whole bunch of words glued on. And my friend's son, as much as I support her, I actually haven't bought one of her paintings yet. So I need to figure out when I can buy one. She's given me a painting. She's given me 2 paintings, and I love them. One's hanging in a closet corner. Sorry, headphones are in the way. So she painted me that one. That one back there is just one that I got from EDC. And the other painting is kind of covered up right here. It's one of those oil paintings. I wish I could show it all. It's behind my... It's too hard to move this thing right now. But I love my friends. I love my family. Despite all my family's issues, I still keep in contact with them all. I still talk to them. For the longest time, my Uncle Norman would just call me up, bored out of his mind, usually when he's drunk. And it makes it hard to have have any conversation with him because he's repeating himself. And all he does is watch the news all day long, and it's negative news, and I just don't care to talk about that stuff. I just don't care. But I should check in with my Uncle Norman. I haven't talked to him in a while. I can't handle his alcoholic wife. I don't dislike that many people, but I kind of hate her. There's a backstory behind why I hate her. It's not because of the way she treats my uncle, but that's part of the reason I don't like her, because of those reasons. But I hate her because of the way she treated me at one point when I was dealing with my dying cat. She was so mean and so rude that she called me out, saying that I was being abusive to my cat by not putting her down, by watching her die and suffer. And I had no money at the time to help put her down. And this was at the height of COVID, though. Everything was shut down. Everything was so difficult to do. I couldn't find an emergency vet. She found one for me, but they also treated the death not very good, and it was very traumatic the way that she passed. She basically paid for my cat to get put down, which I was appreciative of. But I didn't even get to be with her when they put her out. They said that they rolled her out to me when she was basically already gone. Scary for her, and I feel so bad that I couldn't have been with her when she died, because she was gone before they even wheeled her out. But she was so close to death. But the way they handled it wasn't cool, and the way my aunt, I can't even call her my aunt, my uncle's wife, told me I was being so mean and neglectful and just calling me names and stuff. And I'm grateful she paid for that thing, but you don't treat somebody grieving that way. I didn't mean to get into this. But that kind of killed my relationship with my uncle, because I'm just like, he's married to a witch that I just don't want anything to do with. I was putting my Loki cat down, and it was the hardest thing to do. The first one was easier for me. I had Kitty exactly half my life, from the age of 18 to 36. I had Kitty for 18 years. 18 was the magic number. I kept her alive as long as I could, and she was comfortable when she went, and I got to see her and be with her in her final moments. And it was so good the way I was able to deal with the grief of the first
my very first cat of my own that I had to put down. But the way I had to put down Loki was horrible. I'm still traumatized by it. And the fact that this man is still married to this woman just pisses me off because she doesn't know how to talk to people. And the way she treated me, I can't even like repeat all the words. My throat hurts. I can't even speak the words that she told me all the way. I can't believe I'm breaking down this bad. I guess I just have a lot of unspilled grief for my cat. Loki Cat was my cat, you know? Even though she was my second baby. And I also had to almost leave her multiple times behind because I became so allergic to her too. And that's what made it even harder because I was allergic to her, but I'm like, I love this thing, man. I love my kitty. But I will never forgive her for the way she treated me. In that moment. And COVID was just shutting everything down. I was so stressed about having tethered cord surgery in a couple months. Like, just there were so many things. My friend's dad died too from COVID. Like at the time, like there were so many things going into the factor of my grief at that time. Like just everything was going wrong. Nothing was good at the beginning of COVID for me. With I had emergency health scares. I was scared for my own life. I was scared for my cat's life. I was, still going to doctor appointments. It was like the zombie apocalypse too, driving to my doctor appointments between Washington and Oregon. Like, it was dead. There was no traffic. I was just like, this is surreal. Like 300 miles of like no cars on the road. It was so crazy. It was the craziest time of my life. Dealing with all this stuff. Gosh, thank you guys for getting to know me. I am chronically happy. Just take a deep breath. I just needed to grieve. I haven't grieved for so long about Loki. She got the most views on TikTok ever. I was doing TikTok at the time. Before I started any of this YouTubing, I was doing all kinds of different TikTok videos. I was like all over the place with my topics. But yeah, so that's my family history on my mom's side, and there's so many aunts, uncles, cousins, and now my cousins are having babies, so I have second cousins, and I'm trying to be that aunt that's there for them, even though I'm not really an aunt, I'm a cousin. I'm trying to be there for them because that's what I loved when I grew up, having all my aunts and uncles there and family, help support my kid, give my kid gifts. But that's not a thing with my generation anymore. We don't have those get-togethers like we did in the 80s for me and my cousins. My cousins are trying to replicate that for their kids, and they just can't. And I feel so bad for them because I see my Uncle Alan more than his daughters see them. It's really sad. It makes me upset for them because I see their dad more. They're more involved with their mom. So my uncle has now since remarried, and he remarried a long time ago. And the messed up part of all of this is, and I think what really helped destroy the family into like these aunts and uncles not talking to these ones and not talking to these ones. So Uncle Norman also lived at my Uncle Alan's house for a brief time, and they also worked together for like 20 years. They absolutely have nothing to do with each other now. But My Aunt Gina and our Aunt Darlene had a falling out a long time. Like, they would never show up at the same family gatherings ever again. So, what happened with that was my cousin Danny and Desiree, they never even got to know their cousins April and Matt, ever. They don't even know those cousins because of those aunts not talking to each other. Are they missing out on that a relationship with either one of them? I don't know. I don't know how they could enrich each other's lives because Matt lives in Pennsylvania. April, the one that's my age, is so completely disabled and sick, worse than I am, and she's more bedbound than I am. But a lot of it, I hate to say it, is mentality. Her mentality is more of a I'm gonna give up and just this is where I'm at, whatever. She's tried to be successful at life, and she was for a while, and then she just got so freaking sick. She has worked for the Oregon State Police. She used to be a forensic analysis person, and she got so damn diseased and sick that she has so many things wrong with her. She can function less than me. She functions less than I do. She ended up having a son and daughter. Her daughter ran off and got married and lived in another state, and now they just recently moved back, and I haven't even seen her, I don't think, since she's been back. I did live with Danny and his wife for a short while. They had a son, Doyle. I had to live with them briefly before I graduated college because my parents decided to move within a month of me graduating college, and I didn't want to change up my route, so I stayed with my cousin and his wife and son for a good 2 to 3 months before I moved over to Eastern Oregon. Let's see. I've been for my uncle's kids, Gwen and Carrie. Uncle Alan, my favorite uncle. Gwen and Carrie are his daughters. Carrie has no children. Gwen has 2 children. One is very high special needs, is her first one, and her second one is more normal, boy and then a girl. It's funny how that is. The only 2 aunts and uncles that had not one of each sex is my Aunt Kathy had 2 boys and my Uncle Alan had 2 girls. But I have the same amount of boy cousins and girl cousins. Pretty funny. Everybody had 2. Except for 1 or 2 of them, maybe I had 3, but I don't talk to all of them. Oh wow, almost a 2-hour video. Longest one I've had yet. So I figured since I'm in a flare, I'm gonna do a get to know me video and talk about my large family. They're all wonderful people in their own way. I accept them for all their flaws as well, because nobody is perfect at all. Perfectly imperfect is what we all are. We all got issues, we all got problems. It's interesting to see all the medical issues within my mom's side of the family and how the genetics have changed but only escalated in the problems in the kids. Almost all my cousins' kids are on the spectrum. All of them. And even my nephew and niece, they're both on the spectrum. My niece is not diagnosed, but I think she's on the spectrum too. Girls are harder to tell because they're good at mirroring. And if you can learn to mirror at a younger age, and London is a very smart girl, which bless her heart, my niece is in France doing a mission for Latter-day Saints, spreading the spread of her Savior, Lord and Jesus, for
the mission. I absolutely love that for her. She's almost like fluent French now because she's been living there for a few months, and I'm so proud of her. She's doing what she wants to do. Her mom's side of the family is Mormon or Latter-day Saints. And then my nephew just turned 22, and he is going back to college at BYU. It's here pretty soon. He loves to learn. I love to learn. She loves to learn, my niece. So it's interesting to see the paths that the niece and nephew take in life, coming from a split household because my brother and his ex-wife got divorced, oh gosh, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago now. It's been a long time. But he's now been remarried, and I have another nephew by marriage, so I have 2 nephews and a niece, and they're all adults now. So it's trying to figure out how to transition from being like aunt to young kid role to adult aunt to adult niece and nephew. It's great to watch them grow and learn, and I love them to death. I know I would have been an excellent mom had I had that opportunity. But instead, I went career, and I wanted to have a career, and I wanted to have medical insurance, whether it's good or bad. I know I needed it. But yeah. That's my mom's side in a nutshell. I absolutely love my mom's side. I spend more time with their side than my dad's side. And I don't know what happened. Like many years ago, we stopped doing a lot of things with my dad's side because my mom gets annoyed so fast by my dad's brothers and sisters, mostly sisters. I mean, I can kind of understand, but like, I love my aunts and uncles. I don't hear from my uncles. I have 2 uncles, so I got Uncle Bill and Uncle Mark, and then the rest are all aunts on my dad's side. So there's a lot of women on my dad's side. 2 of them struggled with drugs. One of them moved all the way across the United States to get away from drugs. Actually, and then another one was married to a heavy drug user, and they had 3 kids. This is on my dad's side. Not as specific as I am on my mom's side information. Like I said, that should be a whole nother video in itself. That's almost 2 hours now. If you can even watch it this long, I mean. So that's the kind of family I grew up from. My parents have been working class. My dad worked for the post office for 20 plus years. He started off as a janitor, and then slowly worked his way up into like a electrical, mechanical engineering type job where he worked on all the equipment at the post office. He was never a mail carrier. He always worked on the inside, and he would end up going to schools like every so often to update him on the newest technology of the machinery that he's working on and that the post office uses to sort mail and that kind of thing. So my dad worked for the whole, my dad pretty much supported us for the most part with this government job. We had family vacations every summer. We went to Yellowstone, we went to California. I've been to Disneyland a couple of times, Knott's Berry Farm. Never made it to the San Diego Zoo though. We went to the water park SeaWorld. We went to SeaWorld. We've been at Universal Studios, all this down in California. We grew up doing a lot of family vacations because it's what my mom lacked, and my dad didn't do that many either, but they did the fancier ones because my dad's from a Catholic family, and My dad actually went to Catholic school, and my mom's not religious on her family at all. So, quite the contrast between my mom and dad's side of the family. So, I'll get into my dad's side here in another video on getting to know me. This is just my background family information, so it's not so much getting to know me, but getting to know where I came from and the type of people that influence me, because it does take a village to raise kids. And anymore, I don't see these villages happening, and that's sad. It's really not about the quantity, it's about the quality of people that you allow in your life and keep in your life and have boundaries with others in your life. But life is all about balance too. Accept people for who they are. Even though I know all these things about my aunts and uncles, I accept them for who they are, and I still on occasion go out and check on them. I know where they live. I still love them. They don't make the best of life choices. I don't agree with all other life choices, but you know what? Family is family, and you can choose your family. Family is not only blood, but you can choose family. But as people get older, they get very lonely, and every once in a while, I just want them to know I love them, and I appreciate them for being in my life when they have been in my life. So, I don't know, this just gives me some food for thought. I might go out and go visit my Aunt Kathy here pretty soon. She's not, a lot of people have given up on her in the family. Nobody really wants to talk to her. She's pushed a lot of people away. She's been a bitch to me, a beach to me too at times, and I don't deserve that at all. But you do choose your family, but family is family, and as long as they haven't done anything grossly awful, I don't know how to define what grossly awful is. As long as it hasn't been anything like stealing from me, don't ever steal from me. Don't lie to me. Maybe bend the truth, but don't lie. Don't lie to me. And don't accuse me of things that are not true. I don't know. Don't hurt others. Don't physically hurt others. Don't shoot others. Don't have the intent of doing anything bad or evil. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but people make mistakes. People continuously make mistakes, and sometimes they don't have enough compassion for themselves to be the right person and the good person that they need to be. But sometimes all it takes is one person to just say, hey, I believe in you and I love you, regardless of whatever. Just know that you're loved. That way, hopefully, if that is the last time that I do talk to them, they know that they are loved by at least somebody. And then they might be okay with being able to pass over. I don't know. I certainly don't want to be haunted by anybody after they pass. But I want to know that I've done the best that I can to accept people for who they are, good or bad traits. We've all got some bad traits in us somewhere. Doesn't mean you have to act out on them, but just love one another. Be kind. The people that need kindness the most are the ones out there doing the things that they shouldn't be doing.
They just need some kindness shown to them. And there are people that will take advantage of that too. And you got to be watchful and mindful of those people. There will be people that will take advantage of you every moment that they can get. So there's a balance to life. But I do want to go make a visit down to my Uncle Mickey. He lives way down in Southern Oregon, and it's quite a drive. I just don't have the money for it. I want to go down and visit again and tell him I love him. Because I don't know how much longer he'll be around. And it's hard when you lose a loved one. Even if you interact with them or not, it's still hard. You try to grieve the moments that you love having with them, and forget about the bad that you did experience with them. So, anyway, just try to help give somebody hope for the day. Give somebody hope. Give some positive words to anybody. Tell somebody that you like their hair. Tell somebody you like their shirt. So, compliments go a big way, even to strangers. Just brightens up their day. I tell you what, when I gave out those bracelets to people at that club on Friday night, the brightness and smile that came over their faces, it touched my heart, because it's so nice just to give something for free with no stipulations, nothing. Even if these people don't wear them, at least they'll remember the moment that they got it. Whether they give it away or keep, whatever they do with it. I had 2 or 3 girls tell me, I only have like 1 or 2 of these, and I've kept every single one I get. And I'm like, oh, it makes me so happy to hear that. So, it doesn't matter. Put yourself out there. It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's so scary to be rejected and be like, no, I don't want your bracelet. No. Or whatever. Even if they don't wear it, that's fine. But yeah. It's nice to get something for free from somebody that you don't even know. And it creates a conversation between you and that person. So, I also am a person that hates small talk. I hate it with a passion. But in order to get better at it, I need to practice more small talk, and I need to get out there more. And it's just so hard some days because people are so chipper and happy. Like at the bank teller yesterday, she's like, hi, how's your day? And I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain today. And then it changes their whole demeanor, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. But then you try your best to cheer them up after you tell them that. You're like, but there's good things going on and other things to be happy about. It will be okay. So it's all about how you present the information to somebody else too. I don't want sympathy or empathy when I tell somebody I'm in pain. I just want them to understand, yes, even though there's pain in the world, it's okay to be in pain, and it's okay to not be okay. And just be more accepting of it. Be accepting when people are like, it's not a good day for me. Just be, oh, well, it can get better. So, I don't know. Spread the world with kindness. That is what I aim to do. And to inspire others to never give up. Keep going. Keep smiling. Keep telling people positive things about them. And it will brighten your day. I promise. Bye now. Peace out.